Hello, ladies and gentlemen. How are you doing today? Yes, I understand I've been lost for the entire week, but now I'm actually back. Now, what happened this week is really interesting. So much news that is happening in Uganda as well as all over the world. One of the most interesting things that I was noticing, a wee bit outside Uganda, and I'll tell you why it is important. It is the coup that actually happened in Myanmar. Now, the situation that is happening in Myanmar is somewhat close to what is happening in Uganda, or we are heading towards there, from my own understanding. Now, in Myanmar, a coup recently, I think 5 days ago, took place where they hosted Aung San Suu Kyi, the pro-democratic a fighter and leader who has been a leader of the country for I think something like 5 years or 5 years now, or something like 10 years now actually, because she had been under house arrest. House arrest. Her father was one of those people who fought for the for the independence or whatever of Myanmar. Then the father was toppled and killed. Then Suu Kyi had to move from the West, where she was studying in a university, I think in America or England, Oxford, and then she had to go back to Myanmar to step into her father's foot. Now, when she went to Myanmar, the military junta over there actually arrested her and put her under house arrest for over 15 years. Now, the military junta ruled the country, whereby everything was controlled by the military. No dissent was accepted. When I was reading about Aung San Suu Kyi, people would support her, but they would support her discreetly. Like they would have pictures of her, they would have her writings and things of that sort in cupboards, because of too much state surveillance and things of that sort. But later on, Myanmar was actually isolated by the international community, and as a matter of fact, because of the restrictions and things of that sort, they tried to democratize. And then when they democratized, they created their own party, and then they let Aung San Suu Kyi they released her from house arrest to actually take part in this sort of transition from a military junta to some sort of a democracy. So Suu Kyi created her party, the National Democratic League, and as a matter of fact, the military never anticipated that Suu Kyi would actually get the support that she got. So as a matter of fact, she won the election overwhelmingly with around 95% of the vote, and the military junta actually had to relinquish some power to Suu Kyi, but they remained in the back controlling everything. But as a matter of fact, they remained in the back controlling most of the things that were going on in the country. Like they took the big decisions in the country. So, meaning that the junta, of course, owned the state, but not the state owning the military. You see what I'm trying to get to? The military owned the state and not the state owning the military. And Suu Kyi was actually denied from becoming the president because they created this kind of law whereby someone who had children, outside Burma or outside Myanmar was not allowed to become president. So because Aung San Suu Kyi had her kids outside Myanmar, she couldn't become the president, but she would become the leader of government and something of that sort. Now, what happens, because most of you know these things, but I'm trying to communicate, I'm trying to, bring up to speed and trying to develop my point here. Now, what happened in Myanmar is that the military, later on, they accept Suu Kyi. They try to open up, democratically and things of that sort. And Suu Kyi actually hosts Barack Obama, who was the then president of the United States. He hosts her. Actually, she hosts him in Burma. And Obama also invites Suu Kyi in Washington. And as a matter of fact, it leads to Suu Kyi being, nominated as a Nobel Peace Prize winner. She wins the Nobel Prize and things of that sort. Now, having gone into an alliance with the military junta, what happened was, I think in 2017, there is this state known as Rakhine, where they are the minority group known as the Rohingya Muslims. So the military claimed that the Rohingya Muslims had attacked a police post in the country, right, in this state of Rakhine. So the military goes there, crushes these people, and the UN actually said that there was something known as ethnic cleansing of the Rohingya Muslims. So most of them had to flee, and they left the country in this genocide, and some of them actually had to flee to Bangladesh. So Madame Suchi actually stands up and defends the actions of the military. She goes to the ICC, defends the actions of the military, because she even said she wouldn't even mention the word Rohingya Muslims. No, she wouldn't. So she does those sorts of things, and then it creates a backlash internationally, and the international community turns against her. As a matter of fact, the international community, they take away her Nobel Peace Prize and things of that sort. So Suchi, on the other hand, when she goes back to Myanmar, because Myanmar is a majority Buddhist country, and these ones were Muslim, so she garnered a bit of support from the public, who had those sentiments against the Rohingyas and things of that sort. So, to the military, they saw Suchi as someone who was actually also protecting them. She would protect them in one way or the other. So Suchi played that appeasement policy in order to gain the trust of the military in one way or the other. But on the other hand, half citizen minority were actually being crushed and cleansed out of the country. Now, recently they had an election, and the military realized that Suchi was actually gaining more power as a pro-democratic, person. So they were like, okay, there is this so-called general who is in charge of the army. That general was at loggerheads with Suchi. I'm sorry for making this long, but I'm going to make the point. So the general was at loggerheads with Suchi, and the general never got along with Aung San Suu Kyi, and Aung San Suu Kyi never got along with the general. So what happens is they go into an election, and then Suu Kyi's party, of course, wins overwhelmingly. Now, what happens is that the general realized that, look here, I think Suu Kyi is gaining more power than we actually anticipated that she would get. So they come out again, they arrest Suu Kyi and her other counterparts, put under house arrests. They put her, they charged her with a crime of having walkie-talkies, 3 walkie-talkies that would actually see her put in prison for over 3 years. So officially, this general takes over the country and announces that everything has been suspended, and now Myanmar or Burma has gone back to where it all began 30 years ago. Aung San Suu Kyi right now is back from where it all started, in house arrest. The state has been taken back to the so-called owners, who are the military. So the military in Myanmar or Burma owns the state. Now, to break that, it is going to be something very hard, because there are so many players in the country, the Chinese and all these other people and so on and so forth. It brings me back to Uganda. Why am I telling you all this story? Why does Myanmar matter? Why does all this thing why should I be telling you all that? The reason is simple. That is where Uganda is heading. Actually, that is where most African countries are heading to. Where the military takes over the state, and then it owns it. And instead of the state owning the military. Now, gone are the days where dictators would play, and they play tricks here and there, and they use militaries to crush people here and there. No. Museveni is metamorphizing. Like, the thing is changing. Like, the way I see it, it is changing. He is empowering the military with a lot of power, to the extent that the military is deeply entrenched, just like it is in Myanmar, that it is going to be hard to break that so-called military, administration or military junta in Uganda. Now, in Uganda, we all understand that Museveni has been playing these tricks of shuffling people here and there, giving promotions here, and trying to appease, the people in the military, and trying to give them those sort of concessions and everything they need. And those who would not comply with him, those ones would be poisoned or murdered and things of that sort. Now, what he has realized is, if he can set his military to capture the state and take over the nation, then that would provide more security, or that would bring more people to come and sit on the negotiation table than if he actually went by playing tricks and tricks here and there in one way or the other. Now, how is he doing this? Because we still have a chance. We have a very big chance before we have a military junta taking or owning our state, our nation. In Uganda, this is what Museveni has done. Now, we have three different departments, the way we classify them. We have the UPDF, that is the official army of Uganda, the Uganda People's Defense Forces. Under that, you have the Air Marines, you have what do you call them, infantry, and so on and so forth. Now, we have the Uganda Police, right? Now, Uganda Police, of course, the UPDF is in charge of protecting Uganda and its borders, protecting our borders and any foreign enemies. That force has, I think, around 48,000 troops, or 60,000, I think 48,000. Then you have the police, Uganda Police. Every nation is supposed to have a police. So, the police also has its own departments and so on and so forth. Then, we also have, now these ones are not legal, but they have been created by the state. A militia known as the LDU, the local defense units. We also have crime preventers. We also have crime preventers, SFC. We also have intelligence organizations like the CMI, criminal intelligence, military intelligence. We have the ISO, Internal Security Organization. We have the ESO, External Security Organization, and things of that sort. You see all that sort of security apparatus. Then we have what we call the on top of all that, the major commanders of all that is something known as the SFC. You know, SFC, Special Forces Command. Highly trained, Museveni's guys and all this kind of thing. It is a force of around 21,000 people. Now, what Museveni has done, he has gotten the entire SFC and created parallel organizations, created parallel structures, parallel to the civilian organizations. He has made the SFC the overall seer of things that are going on in the country. To the extent now that because Museveni is trying to create this sort of Myanmar, Obama sort of military, takeover where the military owns the state, or SFC owns the state in this case. So what he has decided to do is, in the parliament of Uganda, we have 10 MPs that are from the military. And their role is they say that their role is there to observe and take message back to Museveni. 10 MPs, and all these are high-ranking generals. Some of them have been trained under the SFC. Of what use would the army be in the parliament of Uganda? I think if the army was needed, it would be called upon to answer for a few things here and there. But the army sits in the Ugandan parliament just to, as they say, quote-unquote, oversee. Now, that means that they have come into legislation. They are making Ugandans that we should get used to these people being in the parliament. But it is not right. I've been to different parliaments, but I do not see the army seated next to civilians in the parliament that they are discussing national issues. When an expert in the army is needed, they are called upon in the parliament to answer a few questions here. The second unit that Museveni has penetrated is known as the IGG. The IGG is in charge of Inspectorate of Government, something of the sort. It is in charge of following up on corruption matters. You can actually make an anonymous call and then tell them that there is corruption here and there. You blow the whistle and then they can follow up on the case. Now, Museveni created a parallel organization within the military or within the SFC known as the Anti-Corruption Unit State House, headed by a leader, a lady known as Kano Edith Nakalema. In the parliament, we have 10 MPs. Those names, I will list them down there. But in State House, Museveni has his own private anti-corruption unit in the State House. You see what he is creating? He has his own private MPs that are military. Now he has his own private anti-corruption unit in the State House known as the IGIGI that investigates other people with the exception of the military and him. So the IGIGI anti-corruption unit headed by Lieutenant Colonel Edith Nakalima, I think. Now, we also understand that Museveni deployed people on fishing and landing sites in the country. Uganda is one of the one of our biggest exports is fish, and fishing is one of those things that are actually businesses that low-earning Ugandans actually earn from. So what Museveni did was, when he realized that the fishing business had become very profitable, he deployed the army on all fishing and landing sites in the country. And the fishing trade has been taken over by the military in Uganda. If you're caught fishing in Uganda, man, it is a matter of life and death. You can be shot. So many people have been shot while fishing. So many boats have been confiscated. So why do you think that these people are on the fishing and landing sites? Because fishing is one of those one of the major economic activities in the country. Now, Museveni has also penetrated the courts of law. The way they are doing it is like this. They are getting civilians and charging him in court martials. That is how they are normalizing everything. They are setting up kangaroo court martials to charge civilians instead of charging the military. So what they are basically doing is they are trying to replace the civilian courts, and I don't know where these judges are actually going to be working, which is really interesting. They are replacing civilian courts with court martials so that they normalize the situations. That, when they capture you and take you to the court martial, it is the military junta that is going to be actually charging you, but not be taken in the state or the civilian courts. Because recently, most of Bobby Wine's bodyguards as well as people power supporters, they were taken to civilian courts. Civilian courts gave them bail and said these people have no charge, they should be released. What the military junta did, they went and captured these people from these civilian courts themselves and arrested them. Same thing in Myanmar. They went to the parliament, arrested Aung San Suu Kyi and all these other people. They arrested them, bundled them up, and taken them to be charged in court martials after planting weapons as well as bullets and guns and sorts of things like that in these people's premises and households. And then they are being charged with the military courts. So what Museveni entirely is doing, he is undermining the civilian courts, and then he is promoting his own military court martials and making sure that when the deep military state officially takes over, the court martial should be the courts that people should be charged and not the civilian courts. Now we also know that we have these so-called programs in Uganda that are called poverty eradication programs, whereby the government comes out with a program that we are going to be giving Ugandans cows, we are going to be giving Ugandans goats, we are going to be giving them money so that they get themselves out of poverty. Now, we have different programs. The first one was known as NADS, I think the National Agriculture Advisory Development something, NADS. And then the other one was, out of NADS, we got something called Operation Wealth Creation. Operation Wealth Creation. You can even hear the names, that operation, you get it? So that they militarize the entire thing. Now, Operation Wealth Creation has been headed by Museveni's brother, known as Salim Saleh, and it has been given a lot of money. Salim Saleh is not an economist. He's not someone who studied anything to deal with the economics and how to eradicate poverty and how to move things and things here and there. There are so many economists in Museveni's government, but he would rather have Salim Saleh to handle Operation Wealth Creation, of which Salim Saleh is his brother, and as well as he is a military officer under the SFC and all this kind of military deep state that they are creating. So he heads that big baggage of Operation Wealth Creation, so that they use these wealth creation programs as means of spying on the citizens, as means of surveilling on the citizens, and getting to know who is doing what and where in one way or the other. Now, we have another thing known as the National Enterprise Corporation. It is something that they have created whereby they are having so many industries and things of that sort. Now, the gentleman known as Sabit Museveni, who was the former head of the SFC, that is now headed by Museveni's son, known as Muhoozi Kainerugaba, he was made the general manager. You hear, they're even given normal terms that, oh, so-and-so is the general manager of the National Enterprise Corporation. I think these things do not match. You cannot be a general manager of the National Enterprise Corporation as well as being General Sabit Museveni, meaning that these people have like 3 or 4 portfolios. They are serving in the military, they are getting a salary there. They are serving as a National Enterprise Corporation General Manager, they are also getting that salary. And then they are also getting the salary within this deep state, whereby when they loot, all this loot, they have to, share all this kind of money. The same thing happens to Salim Saleh. The same thing happens to Edith Nakalima. She works in the State House as a State House Comptroller, but then she also works as anti-corruption unit. These people have been given like 6 or 4 jobs, earning all those salaries that civilian Ugandans would have taken over. Now, the person who was in this position, known as the National Enterprise Corporation, was also a gentleman known as Octavius Buturo, who is also a military man. There is no institution that is being served in Uganda. Museveni is eating away all these institutions militarily. The other institution is known as the Uganda Police Force. Now, most of you might say, okay, now Uganda Police Force, of course it is a force, blah, 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 yeah. But the role of the police are different, completely different from the role of the military or the army. The role of the police is to keep law and order. Now, what Museveni has been doing over the years is getting military men to run the police. And these men have no experience. They have no training whatsoever of how to run a police force. People like General Kayihura, these are generals. People like General Katumba Wamana, all these are generals. They are not police officers. They are not trained on how to run a police force. The police in Uganda has never been headed by a real police officer. The only people that are heading the police are military men. And as we speak today, we have a gentleman known as Okoth Ochora. Now, Okoth Ochora, he's a highly trained policeman, but he doesn't call the shots. He does not call the shots. He has no power. He's just there like a figurehead, someone waiting to get COVID and maybe be put on ventilators and things of that kind. Because, he's also grown up in age. Someone that they need to be the face. Now, there's a gentleman known as General Okech. General Okech, his alias is known as the Butcher of the Lion of Mogadishu, because he was withdrawn from Mogadishu, that he succeeded very much in Mogadishu. That's they say. And those stories of Mogadishu, like I did the recent one, they say that he's the Lion of Mogadishu, that he is very, very brutal. He knows all the tactics. He can do this. He's Lokech, blah, blah. A gentleman who actually, Lokech is a gentleman who actually assaulted a police officer. The story is there. The guy slapped a police officer. He beat her up and said, you are nothing in this country. I am the boss. We are the military. So Lokech now is the head of the police. He's the deputy. That is why he makes more decisions than a senior police officer known as Okoth Ochora, who is waiting for COVID, than Okoth Ochora. So General Okech, he is part of that cabal. He is part of the junta that are trying to create a deep state, whereby the state in Uganda captures, whereby the military captures the state and take over everything. Now, it shouldn't come as a surprise to most of you that all of the mineral installations in the country are headed by or are safeguarded by the SFC. Wherever there is gold, it is SFC. Wherever there is oil, SFC is the one that is covering all those areas. Wherever there is copper, bauxite, or any mineral, all these areas are taken or are guarded by the SFC so as to keep track on what is coming in and what is going out. They do not want any penny, they don't want any penny not to be accounted for in order to get it in their own pockets, not for the entire country. No, for just their cabal. Every mineral installation in the country, oil, copper, bauxite, and everything taken. Now, the other thing is that we have also seen them in elections. They are the ones that are now conducting elections, undermining the Electoral Commission. That is why you see the Observer ran a story saying that the SFC had a parallel tallying center in Chambogo where tallying was taking place. They had their own tent, they removed their military attire and wore Electoral Commission t-shirts. That is what is happening. They are now wearing Electoral Commission t-shirts. Okay? And now they are taking over the Electoral Commission has already been taken over and things of that sort. All right, and so on and so forth. So most of these things Museveni has been doing, right? And we all know. But right now, he is harmonizing everything to bring it together. So as it becomes solid, that is what he is doing. He has been creating these things here and there. Because now he realizes for him to protect his successor or the son or whatever, it doesn't have anything to do with the NRM party. No. The NRM is just a facade that is there to, to say that, okay, yeah, we have a party. Just, something to show that, okay, there's a bit of democracy here and there, but none. Right? So what Museveni is doing now, he's trying to harmonize the entire thing, bring it all together, right? And then create this solid kind of deep state of a group of people who are military that will be controlling the country known as Uganda. Now, some people might say that, oh no, Museveni has these, people coming from other nations that they are trying, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, there's that school of thought, right? But those people, when you look at it that, if they go against Museveni in one way or the other, he just hits the switch and then he puts heavy taxes on them. He puts trumped up charges and things of that sort. But now what he is creating here, he is creating another generation of individuals, young people within his ranks. By young, I mean like 50s, 60s and all this kind of thing that are going to take over from him. And within these military officers, within these army men, they will always be electing one amongst themselves and they will always be falling behind the command of that particular individual because those are the people that will be having the guns. Right? Now, this same thing is playing out in different countries. For example, in Pakistan, if you go to Pakistan, Imran Khan is the prime minister, fine. But, if America has something to deal with the Afghanistan, if America has something to deal with the Afghanistans and it needs the help of Pakistan, they do not go to Imran Khan. They go to the Pakistani generals. That's what happens. The same thing happened in Egypt. In Egypt, they have the so-called military deep state. When the military saw that people had rose up, they were protesting and they are falling with Mubarak. What they did was they had to oust Mubarak out of power, create elections. When they created elections, Morsi comes into power. Then they toppled Morsi, and then Fatah al-Sisi takes over power in a barrage of bloodshed on the streets of Tahrir and all this kind of thing. So the military captured the state again. The same thing happened in Sudan. The people protested, and then the military captured the power. The same thing happened in Zimbabwe. Mugabe dies. They do not even wait for people to come out. Chiwenga works with the Mnangagwa, who is the Mugabe stalwart. Then Mnangagwa comes in, and Chiwenga is the one calling the shots. Mnangagwa is just a facade. Take over the power. Now, if you look at all these instances, they had the political parties. In this country known as Zimbabwe, they had I've forgotten, but Grace Mugabe's faction, the young lads that they wanted to take over from the old guard, but they were thrown out, and that creates a very big barrier to overcome such kind of military men or strong men that try to capture the state and take it over for their own benefit and try to call the shots. Now, do we have a chance as Uganda? Because when Museveni creates this, because we have a chance, we have a very big chance, and the chance is now. Before Museveni harmonizes and brings everything together, we need to stand up and condemn each and everything that is going on in the country. We need to use every legal means. We need to come out in non-violent ways and make sure that we stand up against these people. Guys, that is what we have to do. Because if we take that route of Myanmar, we are going to go back to a lot of instant. Let me tell you, there is no country that is under a military junta that is safe. A military junta is always paranoid. They are always looking up on their shoulders. Oh man, these guys want to take me. Oh, these guys want to take me out. Oh, these guys are taking me out. That's what they're always doing. And they're also looking within their ranks. So what that creates, it creates a sense of instability, a sense of insecurity in one way or the other. Whereby even if a civilian government comes in and tries to appease these people and work in some sort of, have a working relationship, they will topple him in a whisk. They are not willing to share power, but they are willing to put someone there as a facade. What we need to do is to stop Museveni in his tracks before the entire thing comes together. Because the people in Zimbabwe are suffering because of that. That now breaking this entire military thing, it is hard. The people of Sudan are now suffering. These guys came, they hijacked the revolution of the Sudanese people. In Egypt, they hijacked the revolution. In Algeria, they hijacked the revolution. The military always comes out and hijacks the revolution. Because that is what Museveni has prepared for. That if at all the people of Uganda go to the streets and things get so bad, I will resign, but I hand over to the military. And the military will say, Museveni is going not to be charged for any crimes against humanity. We are going to protect all the military officers. Museveni has protected all these military guys for a long time. So they will say, okay, we are going to protect them. And now we are going to create the so-called transition for 3 years. That is what Sudan is in it, right? So they're going to create a transition for 3 or 4 years when people come out and protest. Now, at that time, they are trying to bring together their entire thing. So we need to stop them in their tracks. We know the plan. We know the playbook. We know where all these things are heading. We need to be a step ahead of all these guys, both internationally as well as locally. So Ugandans, if you hear these things, please understand that what is going on in Myanmar is so bad. Being under a military junta is one of the worst things. We have been under a military junta, sort of, because power has been lying in Museveni. But now Museveni has realized that, look here, I have to get all this entire power and create some sort of a committee, some sort of a military deep state that will be controlling the country when I'm gone, or that when things get south, when things go south. So that has been my look of things. That has been my analysis of things and why we should care. And let me tell you, when we go under military junta, it doesn't matter officially, like official military junta. It will not matter whether you are NRM, whether you are the lawyer Alfonso Winnie-Donyo, whether you are everyone has a role to play in Uganda right now. Whether you are a doctor, whether you are a teacher, whether you are a lawyer or a judge or a police officer or an army officer at all, is to do the right thing for the country. You know what the right thing is. Just stand to the truth. If you do that, trust me, the country will get back on track. Even if you are a religious leader, even anything, you all know what your role is. Speak the truth. Do the right thing. Like they always say in the Bible, like they always say, the Christians always say, that the truth will always set you free. That's it. But if we live in this sort of lie, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be bad news for all of us. So thank you very much for listening. That has been my analysis for today. I know it's been a bit long, but try to understand because I've been away. But I'm going to be throwing more videos here and there, and then so that I can catch up on the events that have been happening in the country. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.